Cloud. And Michelle, you know that this is a YouTube reading and it will be public,
Yes.
and we will only talk about you
Yes.
for privacy of anybody else. Okay, so recording is on, and let's get started.
Okay.
I will share my screen, and feel free to interrupt me at any point if you have any questions or comments.
Okay.
Come on. Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll start with showing you why and why I use the system I use and how it relates to your multidimensional noble energy maps.
Okay.
So in doing the calculation for an energy map, I use a time 3 months before birth, which is the time when the fetus becomes impressionable in their cortex. So in the third trimester, the brain begins to function. And things that the baby is exposed to in utero during that period of time is something they respond to after they're born. So if a mother plays music, for example, the baby will respond to the music she played during the third trimester, whereas the baby won't if it was played earlier.
Okay.
Um, so I look, you have a question?
No.
Okay. So in your prenatal, in the system I'm using, the basic internal structure is akin to the tree of life. In the human design system, it was supposedly a synthesis, but Ra never integrated the elements like the tree of life, chakras, astrology into the system. He basically worked with the I Ching, which was the visible content in the human design system. I, as an astrologer and having been versed in the tree of life, use all the systems integratively. And what I added to the system based on my research on 45,000 cases is the postnatal aspect of it. So in the third trimester, the 31st hexagram got activated. And then as time went on, the sun moved through the other hexagrams. And when you were born, the sun was in the 50th hexagram in the early degrees of Scorpio. So you're a Scorpio by nature. Then postnatally, the sun continued its progression and ultimately ended when you were 3 months old in the 60th hexagram. So by the time you or any baby is 3 months old, half of the zodiac wheel has been transited by the transiting sun. At the same time, the earth moves around in opposition. So by the time any baby is 3 months old, the whole zodiac wheel has been imprinted into their energetic aura. And I show you that so you recognize that when I'm showing you your individual designs in each of the four worlds delineated in the tree of life and in my work, which I consider my real work, the readings are a part of it. But what the charts do is validate that we live in four worlds as hypothesized in the Tree of Life. And we integrate those worlds into our consciousness by the time we're 3 months old. And then we manifest from that point. So at 3 months of age, 99% of the population are manifesting generators. Not everyone, but most people. These are your designs. So the first one, with a prenatal date of July, shows us your birth chart. From 3 months before birth to your birth, we see that you were in human design defined as a split definition generator. What I've done is to expand the calculations, because when I was working with Ra as his business partner and developing things for the professional community, he gave me what he called the dream rave. And that is a lunar calculation given to him by the voice. I have a spot on my glasses that's annoying me. And it happens 88 lunar degrees before birth rather than solar degrees before birth. So that notes it at about a week before you were born. And it was the lunar sleep design or dream design is horizontal. When we sleep, we're horizontal for the most part. And we're in a 15, not a 64 gate matrix. So I look at it head up because I'm including transits in it, but I also know which are the spiritually oriented hexagrams or gates, as we call them. Then I added in a solar minute calculation. That's 88 solar minutes before birth. And that's in a 33 gate matrix that delineates the emotional world. Now, that is 2 days before birth. And it's when the baby's already dropped about a week before and is starting to enter the birth canal. And the mother's hormones shift. And then an hour and a half before birth is transition of labor. And I calculated that as the lunar minute, 88 lunar minutes before birth. And I did that based on twin kittens I had with their birth time to the second. So ultimately, this tracks to the four worlds. Mental, spiritual is the lunar, emotional is the solar minute, and physical is the lunar minute. And the first four charts are before birth, to birth. And then the second set of charts is based on the fact that the pediatric literature, around the time I was doing my research, began to say that when a baby is born, its gastrointestinal system is undeveloped. And they began to identify the first 3 months of life as the missing fourth trimester. And indeed, when I ran the charts and looked at them, I went, holy S. This shows developmental periods that are critical in the first 3 months of life. A week, an hour and a half after birth, 2 days after birth is when colostrum turns to milk and attachment happens securely between the mother and the baby. The mother is postpartum, her hormones have shifted, and her body is ready to take care of her baby. A week after birth is where, in many cultures, the spirit is seen to be anchored within the baby. In Judaism, it's the bris. In other cultures, it's the naming of the baby. And then 3 months after birth is the postnatal time when a baby starts to reach and has choice. They're making decisions, albeit unconscious, about what they like and what they don't like, who they like and who they don't like. So I read all of that. And then I look at the different types and how your energy moved. What came in? What
Dr.
disappeared?
Eleanor, I'm
What?
sorry to stop. I said, I'm sorry to stop you, but I don't know if it makes it, how much of a difference it makes, but my birth time is 12:50 p.m.
Um, it shouldn't make a huge difference. Um, in the design charts, it won't make any difference. In the astrology, it might make a difference. So why don't I pause the recording and just redo the chart?
Thanks. Sorry, I didn't want to.
Let me make sure. Wait a minute. Pause. Hold on. Is this paused? Is the recording paused? I can't tell. Let me
Still says
stop.
recording.
Let me stop the sharing. Yeah. Pause recording. Okay. We're back with your corrected charts. So I will share it again. Basically, in the regular human design, a 10-minute difference because it doesn't use the ascendant wouldn't make a difference. But given that we're working with the lunar minute and the solar minute, it is going to make a difference, especially in the line of those. So now it does actually change because you do get the 214, which is interesting. So you are a strong generator. And in the human design, I would say that it's very important for you to know that you're going in the right direction for yourself and that what you're thinking of is aligning with the core of yourself spiritually. You have a very strong spiritual core and a very unique way of looking at things and perceiving things. Where am I getting that? I'm getting that from the Chiron in the 23rd hexagram. It stays there in all of your layers, and it doesn't it moves into the second hexagram. So the Chiron, let's see, where is it? Oh, it's the moon in the natal chart. And then you lose the moon clearly because the moon is a fast-moving planet. But then you pick up the second hexagram with Chiron in your postnatal chart. And that's very critical because what that is telling me is that your direction of self has to be spiritually aligned. If it's not, you feel like you're not fulfilling your mission. And you came in with a mission to communicate and to intuitively know what aligns or does not align with spirit. Did I get that?
Yes.
So what I'm looking at in these 8 charts, they're always laid out with the mental world on the upper left, the spiritual to the right, the emotional world, I call it emotional angelic world, and then the physical world. And we're using 2 time frames. So when I look at your composite chart, what I'm looking for is what actually hooked up by the time you were 3 months old? And how does that come together in your design? Now, you are a generator. You do not have the self center connected to the throat or any of the other channels connected to the throat. So you're not a manifesting generator, but you are a very strong generator who manifests as a manifesting generator when transits activate you. So you probably function where you find yourself waiting until something triggers you. And then once you're triggered, you manifest. Hold on 1 second. I just have to take care of one quick thing. Okay. So let's look at where and how things hook up for you, what the planetary body is that's astrologically hooking them up, and what that might mean. So I'm looking at the ajna to the throat. The 11th hexagram is Neptune in Sagittarius. We know that the 23 is always going to be Chiron. And the 56 is the North Node. North Node, North Node, North Node. The North Node then changes to the 62nd hexagram, line 2. Now, that's important because initially the South Node starts in Aquarius in the 60th hexagram. Then it moves to Capricorn, or it moves back, retrograding, and then it moves to the 61. So your North and South Node, which generally identify life purpose, is telling me that you function as a channel. When you're around somebody, you're trying to figure out what's going on. You know things that you don't know how you know. Yes?
Yes.
And you are looking to understand what the meaning of what you're perceiving might be. It's not enough for you to perceive it. You want to understand the story behind it. You want to understand what is activating that person to behave or perceive the world in the way they're doing so. And you do that because look at your splenic center. Open, 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 open. Where does it get defined? It gets defined in the postnatal lunar design with the 50-27. The 27 comes in as the postnatal lunar Earth. And so when that happens, you begin to feel like you have to be of service to the consciousness of the other person. You are like a guardian for their soul. Do you ever feel that, Michelle?
I feel bothered, I would say is the word that it's I don't feel responsible or anything like that, but I feel bothered by other people's souls.
And when you say bothered, are you perceiving that they're going in the wrong direction, or are you perceiving that they're not manifesting their own power?
Both, that they're going in the wrong direction because they're not manifesting their own power.
And that is coming from the postnatal solar.
Okay.
Where am I getting it? You have the 5027 and the 63, and you have the 5 in every design, and you have the 14 in every design. So you're able to differentiate, or maybe discern would be a better word, whether who you're with is aligning with what you know.
Mm-hmm.
And when you sense that their energy is off, you sense it because you're intuitively knowing that they're not taking care of themselves. And I say that you know that they're not taking care of themselves because the 5027 is the channel of custodianship and of being responsible or feeling responsible for the well-being of another person. And what's come into you in the lunar is the 62, which is the North Node postnatally and the North Node in your postnatal lunar. So you're picking up a nonverbal, I'm waiting for the right word, a nonverbal sense of where to be and how to be. And when you sense that somebody is misaligned internally to themselves, you feel it. You feel it in the core of your being. And you know what they need to do to realign. Does that resonate with you?
Yes.
One of the ways, now I'm looking at the root from the sacral center, and you have the 53, Mercury in Cancer, first line. You have the 60 South Node in Aquarius, connecting with the 3, which is your Earth, in Taurus. And then you have the 52, Mars in Cancer. So Cancer gives you a sensitivity and a sense. Now, it's really interesting. Look at this. You get the 42 and you get the 3
Mm-hmm.
in the prenatal lunar. So the 9 comes in with Venus in Sag, and the 42 comes in with the Earth. So if we look at the design, prenatal design composite, we see you have all three formats.
Hmm.
And we know from the tree of life, and you're in my practitioner class,
Yeah.
so you know from the 32nd path of intelligence, the administrative intelligence, that says we live in the spirit in our gut. When
Hmm.
we say I, we know who I is, and it's spiritual. And we are here in a physical light body, energetic light body, to manifest our full potential through the physical form. But we must do it through spirit. So,
Hmm.
what's really interesting in your chart is that you came in as a spiritually awake individual. And when you feel the 52-9 is in the emotional angelic matrix. So let me show you the matrices. I know I'm not linear and I jump around a little bit, but bear with me. That's how I think. So notice that in the 64 gate waking mental world matrix and they're all three formats. Only one format is active in the spiritual design, and it's one also in the physical design.
Hmm.
Now that's fascinating because we're told in the Tree of Life that when we manifest, keep in mind that you are a spiritual being already enlightened, pretending not to be enlightened in the mental world. So that channel 5342 is alerting you physically, you, Michelle, physically, not everybody,
Hmm.
but because it's there in your lunar design, it's saying, pay attention to spirit and don't get lost by the emotional baggage of other people who may be going in the wrong direction.
Hmm.
Now, that's a vulnerability for you. So I would guess in your life, you've had experiences with people who were not as spiritual as you, who said the right things or did the right things, only to show their hand when push came to shove.
Always.
So the emotional angelic world has two channels. So in physical form, and the tarot card related to this is the world. And you note in the world card, I didn't pull it up. Maybe I should see if I have it handy. May be able to do it quickly through this. Let's see if I can do this. Maybe I can copy and then I could. mm, no, I'm not sure how to do this. Let's see. Let me try it a different way for you. Um, pull it from here. Here we go. I found it, but I opened it in Adobe and it put it in the wrong place. So I'm going to open it with preview so I can drag it into the document. This is just taking me a minute. I think it'll be worthwhile. I don't think it's going to let me do it. No, it won't let me do it. I'll just say it then. In the world card, you have three figures. You have the spiritual figure being a human in the quadrant of Aquarius. In the quadrant where you have the emotional world, you have who do you have? Let me grab it again. Yeah, you have the eagle. And then, well, I can just show it. Oh, I can just stop my share and then I can start my share. And then I can share this. Here you go. This is the world card. So it's showing you a person in the spiritual, an eagle in the emotional, a lion in the mental world, and an ox or a bull in the physical world. The physical world is a world that is not delineated in the path of intelligence 32, because we are here to bring spirit, emotional clarity through creative intelligence, and balance and consciousness into the mental waking world. The physical world is our body, and it's moving through in a way that needs to bring consciousness into it. So I'm going to go back to sharing your charts. So when we see that you have all three channels in the prenatal layer, it's saying to me, especially given that the only it's in composite that you get all the channels defined. So the spiritual world is activating the nine, which is Venus in Sagittarius. You want everybody to be happy. You want everybody to feel balanced. And you know that part of the reason they're not is spiritual. You came in knowing that, Michelle. I don't know anything about your childhood or your background, but you came in with a consciousness that knew who was going in the right direction and whether they were trying to pull you away from your direction. And that would not have gone over big with you. I don't know how you resisted as a child, but going back through your life, and one of the things I'm going to do this afternoon in my podcast is look at stories and how retelling your story to yourself in a different way changes the past for you.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, breathing is extremely important. One of the ways you know if you're picking up physical energy or emotional energy from people is whether or not your breathing has shifted. So if you notice that you're feeling relaxed and all of a sudden you notice your breathing is more shallow or you feel stress in it, it's telling you you're picking up somebody else's energy. Realign yourself then. Ask, am I going in the right direction for me? You can get pulled away. Now, I haven't looked at your children's charts, but I know that they have some abilities as well. And I would not be surprised if what I'm seeing here in your chart is connecting with your children's charts in a way that pulls you away from yourself.
Yeah.
And that would be something to look at. Before we run out of time, let's look at your astrology. This is your astrological chart. 4 planets in your 9th house in Libra. Your sun, 0 degrees of Scorpio. You're very Scorpio. Now, my moon is 3 degrees of Scorpio. So I understand you pretty well. And your depth is not something most people understand. And I don't know what work you do, but not everybody is going to get it. When you speak, you often speak with a level of depth and intensity that is not common. And it goes over people's heads. When I started teaching my system way back in 2001, I had some students in my class that would go like this to signal me, this is over my head. I don't get it. And that would not be surprising with you. Your ascendant is in Capricorn, and your moon is in Virgo, in the 8th house.
Mm-hmm.
You're very self-critical. And your criticism tends to be on what you know that you shouldn't know. You know things, and you want the detail before you speak. And you don't always have it because you're intuitive. Notice that you have Neptune and Venus in Sag in the 12th house.
Mm-hmm.
That's fire connecting up with your 9th house in a trine. And it's saying, now it's interesting. I mean, it's a sextile. It's a sextile, not a trine. It's saying you're always looking at, do your values align with what you're perceiving?
Mm-hmm.
And should you speak? You're always measuring your words. Should I say what I know, or am I going to get blasted when I do?
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to be understood? Chiron is on your 5th house cusp. You're creative in terms of consciousness. So something we should talk about, Michelle, is what you want to do with your consciousness.
That's
Because,
where I'm stuck right now.
yeah, I can see that. And I can see why. Because the Chiron is wanting you to be creative, and you also want to be creative in a responsible way.
Yes.
So it's tricky. Okay, let's look at the progress chart. Oh, there we go. Pluto just moved into Aquarius. The worst is over for you, Michelle.
Yes. Thank you. It is.
Worst is over. When Pluto was going through Capricorn, it
Mhm.
was effing you over.
Really bad.
Really bad. I see that. Now that it's in Aquarius, it's just past some of the progressed planets,
Hmm.
and it may be another 6 or 8 months before you feel settled. So don't be impatient. What's happening now, astrologically, progressed solar arc moon is hitting Pluto progressed natal natal Pluto in your ninth house. So you're reevaluating your values, reevaluating what you want to do with what you are skilled at doing. And you are thinking outside the box, which is easy for you.
Yes.
Um, you don't like to think within the box, and not everybody understands that. So, in the 11th house is your Uranus in Scorpio. And right now, the solar arc directed Saturn, progressed Saturn, is 28 of Scorpio. Once that transit shifts, a lot of things are going to release. Your progressed ascendant is 27 of Aries, right on your um, IC.
Hmm.
Um, it's pushing you. The work I've been doing with my webinar as well as with um, the class, where I'm telling you to reframe stories,
Hmm.
very important for you right now. Your diurnal ascendant. So it's the ascendant for today, right now,
Hmm.
is on the fourth house cusp. Perfect time for you to rewrite early childhood misperceptions of you. So go back to, um, I had an interesting experience last night that I'll talk about in today's podcast. Marvin and I were watching I Love Lucy. Have you ever watched the I Love Lucy shows?
Yes. Very many times.
Okay, so when I was a kid, and maybe 9 or 10, the I Love Lucy show was on every Monday night at 9 o'clock, CBS.
Hmm.
And I would watch it, but none of the members of my family wanted to watch I Love Lucy. They all wanted to watch the Chicago Symphony with Leonard Bernstein that was on at the same time. And I would have none of it. I was standing up for myself, fighting tooth and nail, and I won every time. So every Monday, they knew I was going to fight for I Love Lucy So everybody went to my sister's house to watch the Chicago Symphony, and I was alone watching I Love Lucy.
Mhm.
And as I thought about it, I thought, why didn't anybody say to me, what is so important for you in the I Love Lucy show that you would fight the way you're fighting?
Mhm.
Why is it so important? And what was so important was that in the I Love Lucy show, it wasn't just stupidity or slapstick comedy. It was that all of the players, the four main characters, always accepted each other as they were,
Right.
stupidity and all.
Mhm.
And they loved each other and they accepted each other's antics without judgment. And had anyone in my family said to me, what's so important for you? Maybe we all would have been thinking about our soul,
Right.
but nobody asked. Isn't that amazing? That here's a child standing up and fighting for something that must have been so important to fight for. And nobody asked why. So I'm thinking that when you go back to your stories from childhood, why didn't people get you? Why didn't they support the knowing that you had of the creative intelligence of the emotional world? Chiron, right on the cusp of your fifth house. Right now, Uranus has just transited that, right on it. Great time for you to go back and do some inner work to transmute and transform early patterns that are no longer useful for you. Does that make sense?
Yes, 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 it does.
So, looking at your design again, pay special attention to the central column. I am posting a video of Marvin doing a Tai Chi Gung class. Tai Chi Gung would be phenomenal for you, especially the figure eights. I did a 5 minutes of peace podcast,
Mhm.
which is available on Apple and SoundCloud, that goes over just the figure eights. Doing those and getting your kids to do them
Mhm.
can shift brain waves.
Okay. That's actually part of my, I know, New Year's resolution. That is our that that is my January plan, is that we're going to start doing that together. Starting in January, we're going to start doing that together.
That's excellent. Now, Marvin did a whole Tai Chi Gung class, and I asked Cindy to post the link so that everybody could have the Tai Chi Gung experience if they want it. We
Mhm.
had posted some classes online, but the teachers started doing some things that were not pure,
Okay.
and so we pulled them.
Mhm.
Uh, so just straight doing the figure eights take you through the four worlds, and that's critical for you. I'm also going to be doing another 5 day experience, January 13th through 19th. Did you do the last one?
I did, and it is what opened up quite a bit of it was very informative and very helpful for me.
Well, you can do it again.
Hmm.
Sometimes doing things in real time with other people shifts the consciousness and makes it more powerful. The main thing for you to pay attention to here in your chart is the fact that in composite, you get the formats.
Mhm.
And while you're not a manifesting generator, you really are. Because you're going to get the transits all the time. I don't know if we have a transit in any of these gates right now, but looking at that might be useful for you.
Okay.
I'll stop the sharing. And do you have any questions before we stop?
I have a question about the with the figure eights. My mom is going to do it with us as well. So
Great.
we're going to do it every night. Is She can't stand. Does that make a difference if is it more about the actual shifting of the energy?
If she can't do it
Her hip, yeah,
standing, if she can't do it standing,
she can stand, but I don't know how much she can really shift because of her hip.
she doesn't have to shift a lot.
Okay.
She could shift, she could shift this much.
Okay. And I do think that she
The
can do
main thing is for her to move the energy in her feet
that. Okay.
from heel to toe.
Okay.
As she shifts, just face a little bit and shift the energy heel to toe.
Okay.
Um, and that should do it for her.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.